the feminine side. The standpoint. Still listen to the feminine side. The standpoint.
We have our special guest of honor, and she's going to make her remarks right away. Please, let's put our hands together for Dr. Ifua Asabia Asari.
Good morning. Immediately, I needed to devise a strategy to get up the stairs. Okay, black perfume. I want to stand on all existing protocols, but I cannot not acknowledge the presence of Nana Nsakwao, Madam Layman Bowie, Mrs. Pat Obonai, Mrs. Yawa Hansen, wow, who I'm seeing for real for the first time. We are friends on Facebook. You know Facebook friends are some way. I'm seeing her here today and I'm glad to be seeing her. Madam Liz Hayfron Asari, Dr. Mary Eshen, friends and supporters of Ohiniyiri Gifty Auntie, the media, without whom our stories won't be told. I am so proud of her. I am so proud of Ohiniyiri Gifty Auntie. She said I could talk on anything I like. And so I decided to talk on second generation workplace gender bias. Gender bias, and I'm especially talking about women who aspire to be leaders in their various fields of work. In today's workforce, it looks very different than 5 or even 3 years ago. And that change is likely to continue. Leaders, especially women, are key to ensuring businesses are ready for the workplace of the future. And as we gather to discuss these series of topics on the Standpoint's 15th anniversary, all these topics become even more relevant. And I'm talking about these topics after the next agenda. I'm deeply grateful to my dear sister for extending this invitation and providing the platform for all these years for us to address these critical issues. We stand on the shoulders of countless women who have relentlessly fought for their rights and shattered glass ceilings with all the wounds and bruises and paved the way for future generations. Their unwavering determination and resilience have brought us to this point where we can proudly celebrate the progress we have made while acknowledging the work that still lies ahead. So I would like to address women overcoming second generation gender bias to attain senior positions at workplaces. We dare say that the true progress is not solely measured by the number of women in leadership positions, but by the level of inclusivity, fairness, and respect they experience at the workplace. Many CEOs who make gender diversity a priority by setting aspirational goals for the proportion of women to attain leadership roles, insisting on diverse states of candidates for senior positions, and developing mentoring and training programs actually get frustrated. They and their organizations spend time, money, and good intentions on efforts to build a more robust pipeline of upwardly mobile women, and then not much happens. The problem with these leaders' approaches is that they do not address the often fragile process of coming to see oneself and to be seen by others as a leader. Becoming a leader involves much more than being put in a leadership role. Acquiring new skills and adopting one's style to the requirement of that role. It involves a fundamental identity shift, and organizations inadvertently undermine this process when they advise women to proactively seek leadership roles without also addressing policies and practices that communicate a mismatch between how women are seen and the qualities and experiences people tend to associate with leaders. A significant body of research shows that for women, the subtle gender bias that persists in organizations and in society disrupts the learning cycle at the heart of becoming a leader. And this research also points to some steps that companies can take in order to rectify the situation. I threw in the research so that you know that I did a doctorate. That's all. It's just for shaggy reasons. But despite a lack of discriminatory intent, subtle second-generation forms of workplace gender biases can obstruct the leadership identity development of an organization's entire population of women. The resulting underrepresentation of women in top positions reinforces entrenched beliefs, prompts and supports men's bid for leadership, thus maintaining the status quo. So the three actions that I will suggest to support women's access to leadership positions are: 1, educate women and men about second-generation gender bias. 2, create safe identity workplaces to support transitions to bigger roles for women. And 3, anchor women's development efforts in a sense of leadership purpose rather than in how women are perceived. These actions will give women insight into themselves and their organizations, enabling them to more effectively chart a course to leadership. In summary, educate everyone about second generation gender bias for women. But we find that when women recognize the subtle and pervasive effects of second generation bias, they feel empowered, not victimized, because they can take action to counter these effects. They can put themselves forward for leadership roles when they are qualified but have been overlooked. They can seek out sponsors and others to support and develop them in those areas, and they can negotiate for work arrangements that fit their roles in their lives, in their organization. Such understanding makes it easier for women to then lean in.
The standpoint. The standpoint.
Today, we can amplify each other's voices, celebrate each other's successes, stand united against the obstacles that seek to divide us. As I wrap up, let us remember that achieving gender equality is not a task solely for women. It requires the active involvement and commitment of all genders, whether fluid or whatever. It demands that we recognize the immense value that diversity brings to our societies and communities. Today, as we embark on this journey to advance women and overcome gender barriers, let us embrace the power of unity, empathy, compassion. Let us work together to build a future where women can lead with confidence, where their contributions are greatly valued, and where gender equality is not just an aspiration, but a reality. I thank you, and thank you very much, Ohene Gifty, for leading this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're grateful. We're going to take a breather. We'll have our cultural troupe treat us to a very short session of musical. And then after which we're going to have a remark from our keynote speaker, and then our saxophonist would also entertain us before we get into the conversation for today. So, do enjoy yourself. Thank you very much. A warm round of applause, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hear from our keynote speaker. Let's put our hands together as we make welcome Miss Lema Bowie. Thank you.
The standpoint. The standpoint.
Good morning to all. Kindly permit me to stand on all existing protocols. My name is Lema Roberta Bowie. I'm the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize winner. I'm from the Republic of Liberia, and somehow Gifty is my sister. And permit me to call you Gifty in this. Nana, welcome. You have a very tough job being married to Gifty. I should start a club for you and my husband to compare notes. This is another day the Lord has made. We'll all rejoice and be glad in it. I want to say a big thank you, my darling, for inviting me. You had a long list of distinguished speakers that you could have called to celebrate 15 years with you. You decided to call one from Liberia, and I say thank you. I was really stressed out about what to talk about because my assistant for the past 17 years is a Ghanaian. Her name is Dinah, and she graduated from one of your schools you call Nananom. Is that how you call it? And for some reason, they have been following you on Facebook, so she's been getting all of this. Oh, your boss is coming to Gifty's program. And for the first time, Dinah is worried about what I'm going to wear, how I'm going to look. I say, please, we've gone to kings and queens and palaces, and I haven't disgraced you. I promise I won't disgrace you in Ghana. But I'm very grateful to God for her 17 years, even before I became a Nobel laureate. When I worked here in Ghana, she was my staff. Honest to the core. She's here, and then I'm here with two of my daughters also. Can you all stand so that they see you? Okay, your 2 minutes of fame. So I decided to talk about breaking barriers and setting standards. If you were to ask me to describe the world that we live in today, I would describe it as a place where a world that is upside down. Truth is lost. Good is seen as evil. And evil is seen as good. Excellence is no longer celebrated. Mediocrity is the order of the day. Greediness supersedes compassion. In our midst, we have many clever devils. And ask me, who are the clever devils? The educated ones without character. This is the world that we find ourselves in. And if you look around, we have a charge to transform the world, because we can no longer sit and imagine that this is the kind of world that we want the next generation to take on. We cannot overstate the need for transformation in the world that we live in. We cannot continue to sit back and allow clever devils to continue to rule our nations and enter into our schools. Corruption in many places is on nursery, waiting to be transported to big farms. The charge is now for all of us to step into spaces to do something to change our world. Last year, 2 of my Nobel sisters and I went to the Ukraine to do solidarity visit with the women of Ukraine. And as part of our visit, trust me, I was afraid. Because all of your briefing notes is about when you hear the sound, you have to go into the hole, you have to do this. The entire time I was like, Jesus, who sent me? So we got to Ukraine, and from one community to the other, we were asking and talking to people, especially women. We met with a group of women that I was blown away by. 80% of the train conductors in Ukraine are women. So when the war struck, they had to take the trains from some of the quiet areas to the war zone to evacuate civilians. And what we heard on that journey was women who went into those places. Many of them said many days they got in the train to go, and they said, this is going to be my last day on earth. But when they got on the train, they also realized that many people were coming on the train hungry. So they also started making sandwiches. Imagine you are evacuating people in war zones. So in the middle of the night, before they start their journey, they would sit together and do like 3,000 sandwiches, not part of their job, but they just saw so many hungry people and they decided they needed to do something. Some of them were delivering babies, consoling men who came on the train having lost their wives or their children. And they describe all of this. And the more they talk, the only thing I could think about was commitment. A deep sense of patriotism and an understanding of our collective humanity. And these 3 things, I believe, are things that we need in order to transform our world. Commitment, a sense of patriotism, and a deep sense of our collective humanity. Commitment is being sold to a cause, regardless of how many accolades you get or how much money you get. We sit in this room to celebrate 15 years of a woman who I've come to know, and we sit and we talk about the struggles of getting funding to do excellent work. But regardless of that struggle, 15 years she stayed on the course. Patriotism, that deep sense of understanding that where I come from, everyone else in this space, as Ghanaians, as Liberians, depending on where you come from, I have to be committed to my people. But then the third one is our collective humanity. I am because of what we all are. There is no way you can take away Ghana from Liberia, Liberia from Nigeria. We all need each other in order to make the world a better place. And so with an understanding of these 3 words, we need to step out into the world and make a difference. I am known in many spaces for being a troublemaker. If you go to Liberia and they say Lema is arrested in Ghana today, our president will probably have party. You say good for her. The girl is crazy, she's rude, she's everything. As long as you decide to break barriers, you are named, you are shamed, and you are most often set aside. Several years ago, I found myself in DR Congo. As an African woman, when you've ended your day, your dress of choice is either a bubu or lapa and t-shirt. My dress of choice that evening was lapa and t-shirt. I sat at my computer to go over my notes for my next day meeting, and I hear a cry, loud cry, in the hotel, shouting. And of course, it's a woman shouting, so I jumped out of my room, no slippers, just me like that. And this girl was shouting. When I get there, she explained in her tears that, of course, she's a sex worker, and this man brought her, tried to do something that they didn't agree on. In the middle of that, the men in the hotel came and started beating. The police came and started beating her. No one touched this man, of course, who was an expat. Without even thinking, I jumped in, tried to pull her, at the same time holding my wrapper so that it doesn't drop. and then trying to duck blows, but I'm shouting, screaming. She's shouting, screaming. Eventually, they stopped. And then I asked them, can you release her to my care? And the manager of the hotel, who was black, said to me, no, that she's a troublemaker. I go to bed crying. I write an article, send it to New York. It goes on the Daily Beast, but I'm just really distraught. I feel like a failure because I didn't help a sister out. Next morning, I get up to go to this meeting, high profile. Of course, it's the Nobel laureate. I don't look anything like the night before. I'm polished, put together, but I'm still having this thought. So we sit in the room, and then someone decides the manager of the hotel wants to meet me. He needs his 5 minutes of picture to hang on his hotel wall. He should have thought better. But he didn't know. So when he came and greeted me, I said, what happened to the young lady last night? And he said, you heard the story. Those girls, they come here to cause trouble. She's currently in prison. And I said, I was the one with the t-shirt and the wrapper. And you didn't even give her a chance to explain. I gave him 5 minutes of lesson on justice, patriotism, and gender equality, all in 5 minutes. And everyone around us could see that I was really clearly upset, and all of the other experts were saying, this is the problem we have. And my question to them was, how are we going to change this? 15 years ago, sister friend, you stepped into a space in this country and decided that I'm going to talk about taboo topics. I'm going to step on toes. I'm going to do things that every other journalist is afraid to do. 15 years later, you sit here strong. Regardless of the challenges, you sit here strong. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the example that we need in order to break barriers. Because if we step into spaces and places and be the outcasts, what we're doing is we're making it impossible for injustice and violence to stand up. Every time you speak out against any ill in society, somebody will look over their shoulder before they act. If we refuse to speak out, if we refuse to be the outcast because we want to be friends with everyone, we make it so easy for violence, injustice, and all of the vices that we're talking about to grow and multiply in our society. The second thing that we do if we refuse to speak up is that we make people lose faith in humanity. I may not have saved that girl that night, but I know that she left thinking that there was one person who spoke up for her. And we've heard testimonies upon testimonies about Gifty being the person who gave people hope. In 15 years, she's broken barriers. In 15 years, she set standards. Her program has been impeccable. Her set is always on point. Her dress is always good. Her topic and her diction is always exquisite. This is what our world is calling us to do. Especially those of us who are saying, women need to be there. Step out. Change the world. Make it impossible for injustice to reign, but also set a standard so that when people look back, they know that a woman of character, not a clever devil, has passed here. Thank you. Congratulations, sister friend. I wish you 50 more to go, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. What I would say is my major takeout from this is the fact that the lady, even if she was not saved last night or the night you were speaking about, someone spoke up for her, and that's what matters. Who is speaking for you? And who are you speaking for? They all matter. So we've learned that from her. You don't just keep quiet. You speak up. And when you speak up, things happen. Please, let's put our hands together one more time for her. At this point in time, we're going to take another breather. And in this breather, we're going to hear a lady play a saxophone. And please be entertained by what she plays and encourage her. Let's put our hands together for her. Our lady saxophonist. Thank you very much, Aram, the saxophonist. Let's put our hands together one more time for her. You got us all dancing and moving. This is when we